Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another video. Today, I just kind of wanted to do this a little more unscripted than normal. Normally, I like to write out my entire video script and kind of just read things out, but I just kind of want to explain my thoughts and real talk about the state of Battlefield right now, the absolute state of Battlefield, as some would say. Um, yeah, it's just kind of crazy to see that Battlefield 6 has fumbled this bad. It really does kind of just feel like EA is just moving on to the next one, and the executive team is just seeing the player drop and the probably lack of microtransaction revenue that they forecasted and hoped for. I think they just see that and they're like, hey, why are we still working on Battlefield 6? Even though that's the thing that would bring back the community sentiment. It's just another example of executive hubris. But as a Battlefield player, it is very frustrating to see it go back down around this path. We were basically way down with Battlefield 2042, the worst Battlefield game of all time. I've seen even people saying like, oh, Battlefield 2042 is more fun than Battlefield 6, and I completely vehemently disagree with that. I will never ever stand for 2042 praise. I don't think there's anything that game did right, but I digress. Really the big thing with the layoffs that were announced yesterday is the fact that Battlefield 6 was the most popular Battlefield game of all time, and they even said the best-selling shooter since basically 2022 when Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 came out. It's kind of crazy to see that even with that type of success, EA does not see that as success, and they're like, hey, we just have to lay off a bunch of developers. We know that's pretty standard in the AAA industry, with development happening on a game and then people come in and they're hired on to basically get the game out, and then once the game has been released, they lay off a bunch of people and lay off all the contractors and don't hire them, and then they maintain a skeleton crew from game to game. I think that's part of the reason why EA is doing this. There's also the Saudi deal coming in here in like October, if that's approved. And if that does happen, then they usually like to make the balance sheet look a bit better to be a little bit more profitable, you know? It's really just all corporate meddling and things like that. As a part of these layoffs, we've seen that even some senior developers over at the studios have been laid off from their jobs as well. I think it's a fair bet to say that the people responsible in management for making these decisions that got Battlefield to this point are not the ones being laid off. It's usually the low on the totem pole developers that just work their butt off and don't really get much of a say in what goes on with the overall direction of the game. I don't think this whole realignment that they're doing with layoffs is really targeted at the people who made the bad decisions to get Battlefield to this state. It's most likely just a cost-cutting scenario, and that's basically it. The endemic people that are in the studio that are making bad choices are still going to be there, and they're still going to be making bad choices. Battlefield 6 really is just a product at this point, and they're seeing it fail post-launch, and they're not really putting in the work anymore to bring it back. It's completely different as if they came out and said, hey, we're completely committed to this, we're owning up to our mistakes, and we're going to fix the game, basically. That's really what probably needs to happen, but they're never going to admit that because it looks bad for investors. They still want to tell the investors that, hey, Battlefield 6 was the best-selling Battlefield game of all time, and that you guys are making a ton of money from it. But the thing is, I don't think EA internally really sees Battlefield 6 as a success at this point, because their real goal was not to just sell more copies than Call of Duty for one time. They wanted to make microtransaction revenue. With Warzone back in 2022, Activision reported that they made 5 times the amount of revenue from microtransactions than they did base game sales. That's exactly what EA wants to do. So with Battlefield 6, with this player drop and all this other stuff happening to it, I don't think EA is seeing it as a worthwhile opportunity to continue to work on. They're probably just looking at it and saying, oh, well, write it off. Let's move on to the next thing, and we'll just kind of maintain the minimal live service that's currently going on. We've talked about this in so many videos up to this point, and I think we have seen it coming. We expected this from EA, and they're following through with exactly what we expected out of them. So it is really annoying to see that. But yeah, like I said, the biggest thing is they are not making enough microtransaction revenue in my eyes, and that's really what's causing this. Let's say they maintain 250,000 or 300,000 players, and people were buying $20 skin bundles left and right, and things were just going really good in that direction. I don't think we would be seeing the same level of abandonment that Battlefield 6 is seeing. As a Battlefield player, I really just am sad about the state of the franchise because there really is no substitute for Battlefield. I don't see any of these other games, even like War Dogs or Squad or Hell Let Loose or any of these other Battlefield killers that have been popping up. None of them ever do it right. And even Battlefield itself does not do it right. It's really kind of hard because there is a huge audience for this game and people want to play it. As you can see with the launch sales of Battlefield 6, they promised us a spiritual successor to Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. That's what we want, and that's what everybody expected. Even the Call of Duty players that were coming in were expecting that. They were expecting a return to the shooters of old, as we call it. And so it is really kind of annoying to see them market that and then rug pull it from us and say, hey, no, we actually just copied everything from Call of Duty and just pulled everything over from that. So there is a new statement that came out about Battlefield from IGN just today, about an hour ago. And it looks like they went and interviewed a guy from Ripple Effect named Justin Weeb, who apparently is the design director over there. I'll just go ahead and read that and we can go over it. So it says, Battlefield Studios says it plans to listen and work with the Battlefield 6 community for a very long time as it continues post-launch support with Season 2 Nightfall while dealing with an unsatisfied fan base. That's kind of an understatement. IGN caught up with Ripple Effects studio design director Justin Weeb to learn more about how the team is adapting to feedback in response to mixed opinions from fans. And as it and the rest of the 4-studio group that makes up BF Studios prepares to launch Season 2 Phase 2 Nightfall on March 17th, there's one thing Weeb said he wanted fans to know. We're listening and we're reacting, and it's going to continue that way for a very long time. So I see this quote from Justin Weeb, and yeah, we know you're listening and you're reacting, but you guys say this constantly. You say this every single time there's any controversy, and then nothing happens. We've seen this basically all the way back to Battlefield 5, when all the old guard left and went and did their own thing over at Embark and all these other studios. We had DICE coming out and telling us, hey, we're working on things, we're listening to feedback, and then nothing really changes. I don't know if it's maybe EA is coming up from the top and saying, no, you guys have to do this, and they're tying the developers' hands in a lot of ways. I think that's probably true, but maybe there's even people within the actual studios over at DICE in positions of leadership that are making wrong choices and doing things that go against the community and also Battlefield itself. I think that's a very true thing because there surely are some good developers there. I refuse to believe that there are no good developers over at the studios still. But really, it just the internal management and how things are going with decision making and all of that other stuff. It's just designed by committee, and it just reeks of corporate diarrhea that we really all experience in a lot of our jobs. So I don't think anything different is going on within DICE and Battlefield Studios. But they go on to say, we're getting amazing feedback from the community, and we're constantly trying to strive to make the best game possible. So we appreciate the community's time that they take to share the details of what's working and what's not working for them, and we take it very seriously. Honestly, it just kind of feels like they're just trying to placate us, and that's really all they do. It's just constant placating and saying they're listening, and then they completely ignore the elephant in the room. Every single time. It's kind of crazy. Like, everyone complains that, hey, we want a server browser, and they just don't say anything about it. It's crazy. There's so many different things that go into this, like grounded cosmetics, gameplay adjustments, all these other things that we scream from the rooftops about. They barely hear it. So, I mean, they listen to some of the stuff we talk about with like TTK and netcode and just the basic things that should have been there already. I don't know why we're having to come in here and give feedback on these basic items of a first-person shooter, but we do. And it makes for fun talking. You know, I can make proposal videos and reworks and all that other stuff, but Weed goes on to say, so for me, once we've launched the game, it's in the community's hands to give us feedback. And as an aside, we do give a ton of feedback. It becomes our game now. All feedback is important, and we weigh the community feedback, but also, like I said, we look at the data of what's actually going on in telemetry. Sometimes it can be a perception problem, which I actually agree with. Sometimes it's actually like, no, both sources of information are saying this is a big problem and therefore we need to stop the plans we were going to do and redirect and start focusing on the things that we're seeing identified. He continued, that's the main thing to take away here. It's not like, hey, we crafted this massive plan and we're going to hold to it. It's like, no, anything can change based on what is going on with the community, what is going on with the feedback, and what we're seeing from the game. So all of this sounds great. I mean, if that is actually true what they're saying, that they don't have a strict plan that they're sticking to, which doesn't really seem true. Oh, if we do give feedback, they're going to listen to it and then change things in the game because of it. And we've seen that in a couple cases, but the biggest items of feedback are not going to change. And I don't think we can really trust that this is a true statement. He says here that they don't have a strict plan that they're sticking to, but they absolutely are doing that with content. Basically, every person in the Battlefield community has said, hey, 2 maps every 3 months is not enough. We need more maps, we need more weapons, we need more vehicles. And we say this from the rooftops like every time, and they continue to not listen to it. They could easily go in and say, hey, we're going to take the RedSec map, we're going to cut it up into 4 or 5 different Battlefield conquest and rush maps and breakthrough maps, and then we're going to put them out as a part of the map pool officially. That would be a real easy way for them to come in and just add a few more maps to the game just to make it easier. Obviously, it may not be to their quality level that they like to talk about, but most of the maps in the game are not at that quality level. So I guess it begs the question, where do we go from here? Are they actually going to fix the game? Like, I think maybe in a year or something like that, the game might be in a more solid state. And then at that point, they're just going to be moving on to the next title. And Battlefield 6 will just be what it is. I think Battlefield 6 is already kind of near its final state anyway because the changes have been so small and have been coming so slow so far. So who knows if it'll even get there. That's really the thing. I guess for like a channel update, what I'm noticing across the Battlefield community at this point is the sentiment is really low. The general interest in the game is super low. And as you guys know, Battlefield is my favorite franchise, and I want to see it do well. But really, it's all just complaining at this point. I don't know how the channel is going to grow past that point. I mean, I'll still try to make videos and do all that stuff because if people will listen to them, might as well, right? It is kind of hard. Like, a lot of my friends don't really play Battlefield 6 anymore. We talk about wanting to play Battlefield and then we're like, it's not really worth the squeeze, you know what I mean? Just because the game is not in a great state and there's so much work that has to be done on it that may or may not happen. I really do hope that something will change at some point. If that means like the Saudis coming in and just completely blowing everything up in terms of the games and how they're designed and the studios and all of this other stuff, maybe it could be a positive change just because it's different potentially, but I doubt that. It's like trading one dictator for another, as I've said before. But I'm also interested to see if maybe someone like TTK Games or Embark will finally make a Battlefield competitor like a proper one because they are the ones who made Battlefield in the first place. All those old developers are now at those studios, so maybe they'll come out and give EA a run for their money, but we also don't know like what NDAs and what non-competes that are in place currently that they can't talk about, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of corporate garbage that goes along with all of this that is really kind of frustrating for players who just want Battlefield to be good. So I don't know, sorry for being such a rambly, yappy video today. These are just some of my real thoughts that I just wanted to go over. So if you enjoyed this video, let me know. If you want some more in the style of this, we can totally do that. But yeah, just let me know. And thanks for watching.